You love sneakers, I love sneakers, and I think it's safe to say that everyone loves sneakers to some degree. And if you're lucky, you're gonna find a cool looking sneaker with a cool story behind it. My Sneaker Vault series is based on that idea, but sometimes I find a cool sneaker with a cool story, but it's just too short to make it into a video of its own. So what I've done is that I've gathered 5 different sneakers with small stories behind them and combined them into one video. It's a bit different, but let's just see how it goes. But enough talk. Let's begin with our first sneaker. Our first shoe on the list is not a collab, but more of an art piece that is supposed to make a statement. The Ari menthol 10s were created by designer Ari Small Foreman, who in 2006 created a limited run of a customized Air Force One which had elements of menthol cigarettes fused into it. If you didn't know what was going on, you would almost think that this was Nike trying to do a collab with a tobacco company, which I think almost anyone would see as a bad business practice, something that Ari himself wanted to highlight with this project. According to the man himself, he wanted to make a statement about how consumers of both products were becoming more alike, a statement that neither Nike or big tobacco companies took lightly. While Nike only sent Ari the usual cease and desist letter, the tobacco industry wanted blood and tried to sue Ari into the ground, which in the end ended up costing him a lot of money. You can say what you want about this sneaker and what signal it is sending, but when you look at the attention to detail on the shoe itself, it's just also very impressive. I mean, even the box itself, which is made to mimic a real cigarette pack, is amazing to look at. And apparently Ari managed to create 252 sample pairs of the shoe before Nike and Big Tobacco came after him. And even though the shoe came out in 2006, I will still bet that there are pristine condition pairs out there. Unfortunately, I think that most of them are sitting in some hypebeast storage unit collecting dust and rising in value. But I mean, if you have the money and you find the shoe interesting, who knows, you might be able to cop a pair. Our next shoe is the SB Dunk Heineken, which released in 2003, and what an amazing collaboration. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if I was to ever picture an official Heineken sneaker, this would be it. Now, when I first heard about this shoe, I thought the problem with it was that it had an association with beer and how that was a bad marketing practice, a bit like we saw with the Ari menthols, but no. It actually turns out that this shoe is not a collaboration at all. Apparently Nike just decided that they wanted to create a Heineken sneaker and didn't ask Heineken about any kind of permission. They just made them and released them. Now, you can imagine Heineken's surprise when they woke up the next day and found out that they suddenly had a sneaker collab released with Nike that they didn't know about. After Heineken found out, they immediately sent out a cease and desist letter ordering Nike to stop what they were doing, and Nike of course obliged, telling shop owners to pull all sneakers down from shelves and destroy them. Now, while this is pretty sad because they do actually look really cool, some pairs survived this purge. However, they are currently going for ridiculous prices, but I mean, if you got the money, hey, why not get yourself a pair of unlicensed Heineken Dunks? The next shoe on our list is a Jordan, and one of the better models at that, the Jordan 12 Rising Sun, which released in 2009. Now, at first glance, you don't really get what makes this shoe so special. Well, the reason for that is because what makes the Rising Sun 12 so special is its insoles. The sole depicts parts of old Imperial Japan's Rising Sun flag, hence the name. However, this symbol has a vastly different meaning to people in the East than it does to people in the West, because when you look at what Japan was doing in East Asia during World War II, you begin to understand why people really do not like this symbol and why many people would get offended by it. If I was to compare the Rising Sun with another symbol that we in the West would find highly offensive if it was put on a sneaker, I can easily come up with another symbol that this German guy used during the same time. I mean, Germany and Japan were even on the same team during this time. So, you know, just imagine that symbol put on a sneaker and you can understand why people would find this highly offensive. However, the funny thing about it is that the Rising Sun 12 was not actually banned. Nike never pulled the release back. They released the shoe but with less offensive insoles. However, there are still pairs out there who bear the original banned insoles. And as another fun fact, while researching this video, I found out that Nike had a Nike SB Rising Sun planned for release in 2007, which never came out and was possibly pulled back for the same reasons. So I don't understand why they made the same mistake twice. I mean, it just baffles me. It's just, you know, why? Why Nike? Why? The next shoe on our list are the Nike Decades. Now, the decades on the surface look like any other Nike shoe, and it mostly was. I mean, the shoe came out sometime around the 90s and it was seen as nothing more than another Nike shoe. However, this would suddenly change with the Heaven's Gate incident of 1997. Heaven's Gate was a religious cult formed in the 1970s by a guy named Marshall Applewhite, and if I was to describe the cult's belief, it would be a kind of sci-fi mixed with early Christianity, and the savior that they were waiting for was the comet Hale-Bopp, that from what I can understand was supposed to be a spaceship that would take the cult away to Heaven's Gate when it arrived. This comet would circle Earth on March 24, 1997, and therefore the cult prepared themselves for its coming. On this day, they prepared a special uniform for when they were supposed to be taken away, which consisted of a black t-shirt, black sweatpants, and the Nike decades. On this day, the cult performed a mass suicide inside their compound in San Diego, and it was this event that turned the Nike decades into more than just any other Nike shoe. Following the event, Nike pulled the decades from production due to the controversy, and funny enough, these chains of events sparked an immediate interest in the decades as a collector's item, and people began buying and hoarding as many pairs as they could to resell later. As of me writing this, you can find a pair of Nike decades priced as high as $6,000+ on the secondary market. Now, the next shoe on our list is actually what inspired me to make this video in the first place, the Jeremy Scott x Adidas Roundhouse mids. Now, Jeremy Scott himself is a strange figure, having created either some of the most unique looking or downright stupid looking sneakers in sneaker history. He's probably most famous for creating those wing shoes that he also did with Adidas. Now, I don't think it was to anyone's surprise that when this shoe was announced to be coming out, everyone was outraged, and I also like to think that we all know why. During the time when this shoe came out, the media spun it as being that sneaker with shackles. Now, this picture was not helped by the fact that while sneakers do have a large consumer base, there is particularly one kind of consumer which are frequently associated with owning sneakers and which also have a rather brutal past, which includes shackles, especially on their ankles. Now, the question that I want to ask is why and how was this shoe approved? I mean, you gotta understand that sneakers have a rather long way to go before they release. They have to become an idea, then they have to be sketched out, then approved, then have a final draft, then be sampled, then have a final sample, then produced, and then released. Apparently this shoe went through all those stages from concept to actual production before anyone realized that they were about to release what would probably go down in history as the slavery sneaker, and no one thought about saying anything. It wasn't until 2 months before release and a huge wave of consumer and media backlash that Adidas realized, that maybe we shouldn't release this. It just baffles me really. And also as a side note, when asked why the shackles, apparently the designer Jeremy Scott said that he was inspired by the chains from the toy line My Pet Monster. And I mean, when you look at this and compare it to the Roundhouse mids, I'm not gonna lie, I mean, you can see a clear comparison and you can see where he got the inspiration. So I don't think he's lying. And I also do not think that Jeremy Scott woke up one day and thought to himself, you know what, I want to make a slavery sneaker. But then again, consumer base, history, and why didn't anyone say anything? I don't understand how this could go so far. I mean, it just baffles me. Why Adidas? Why? And that's all I have for you guys. Please let me know what you thought of this kind of video, and if I get enough support, I might make a new list with another batch of smaller sneaker stories combined into one. But for now, thanks for watching and subscribe if you want to see more. I'm SneakerKlev and I'll see you in the next video.